My name is David Martinez, and for 15 years I've been quietly building one of the most successful property investment portfolios in the city. While my family thinks I'm just a maintenance supervisor at an apartment complex, the truth is I own over 200 rental properties across 12 neighborhoods, including some of the most exclusive areas in town. I learned early that people reveal their true nature when they think you have nothing they want. The invitation to my sister Carmen's housewarming party arrived on a Tuesday, addressed in her careful handwriting. She was so excited about the new place she and her husband Derek had found in Willowbrook Heights, one of the city's most prestigious neighborhoods. What she didn't know was that I'd been quietly acquiring properties in that area for the past 3 years, including the exact house they'd just moved into. Derek Hoffman had been a thorn in my side since he married Carmen 5 years ago. A mid-level marketing manager at a tech company, he acted like he was the family's success story while treating me like the resident failure. Every family gathering was an opportunity for him to remind everyone about his corner office, his company car, and his real career, compared to my job as a building maintenance supervisor. What Derek didn't understand was that my day job was perfect cover. I started in maintenance 15 years ago, learned every aspect of property management, and used that knowledge to identify undervalued buildings. While he was climbing the corporate ladder, I was quietly buying distressed properties, renovating them, and building wealth that would make his tech salary look like pocket change. I arrived at the party Saturday afternoon, parking my modest work truck between Derek's BMW and my cousin's Mercedes. The house was beautiful, a Tudor-style home with manicured gardens and a circular driveway. I'd bought it 18 months ago for a fraction of its current value, spent 6 months renovating it through my network of contractors, and put it on the rental market 3 months ago. Carmen greeted me at the door, her face lighting up. "David, I'm so glad you came. Come see the house. Derek found us the perfect place." The interior was exactly as I'd designed it. Hardwood floors I'd personally selected, crown molding installed by my preferred craftsman, a kitchen renovated with top-of-the-line appliances. Walking through felt like reviewing my own work, which in a way it was. Derek appeared in the living room, holding court with several neighbors and family members. He spotted me and his expression shifted to that familiar condescending smile. Well, David actually made it out of his apartment building." The room chuckled politely. Derek had a way of delivering insults that sounded almost jovial, making it difficult to call him out without seeming oversensitive. "Beautiful place," I said, running my hand along the custom wainscoting I'd commissioned. "The craftsmanship is exceptional." Derek puffed up with pride. "That's what happens when you can afford quality. Not everyone gets to live in neighborhoods like this." My uncle Roberto joined the conversation. "Derek was just telling us about the rent. $1,500 a month for a place like this in Willowbrook Heights? That's incredible." I nearly smiled. Derek was paying me $2,000 a month, but apparently he was telling family it was $1,500 to seem more modest. "The rental market can be tricky," I said neutrally. "Tell me about it," Derek laughed. "Good thing I know how to negotiate. The landlord tried to charge us $2,000, but I talked him down. Probably some desperate investor who got in over his head." The irony was delicious. Derek thought he'd negotiated with my property management company, which handled all tenant interactions to maintain my anonymity. What he'd actually done was accept the standard rate while my company noted his initial resistance to the asking price. Carmen joined us, linking her arm through Derek's. "Show them the master bedroom, honey. The view is amazing." As we toured the house, Derek continued his commentary. "Location, location, location. That's what separates successful people from." He glanced at me, "People who just get by." My cousin Elena asked about the neighborhood. "Are the property values rising here?" "Absolutely," Derek said authoritatively. "I researched this area extensively. Properties here have appreciated 40% in 3 years. That's the kind of investment planning that builds real wealth." He was actually underestimating. I'd seen properties in this neighborhood appreciate 60%, partly because of the improvements I'd made to multiple houses on this street. Derek was benefiting from my investments without knowing it. The afternoon continued with Derek holding court, discussing his business acumen and his eye for prime real estate. Several times he made subtle digs about my simple life, and how not everyone can handle the pressure of real responsibility. Around 4 o'clock, Derek's performance reached its peak. We were standing on the back patio when my nephew asked about my work. Uncle David fixes things at apartments, Derek interrupted before I could answer. Blue-collar work. Honest living, but not exactly what you'd call ambitious. The group fell quiet, sensing the edge in his voice. Carmen looked uncomfortable. Someone has to keep the buildings running, I said mildly. Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's the difference between us, David. I create value, build relationships, negotiate deals. You just fix things when they break. My sister's face reddened. Derek, that's enough. But Derek was just getting started. The alcohol and the audience had emboldened him. I'm not trying to be mean, Carmen. I'm being realistic. Look around. He gestured at the house, the neighborhood, the gathered family members. This is what success looks like. David's a nice guy, but let's be honest about what he brings to the table. The patio went silent. Even the neighbors looked uncomfortable. Derek continued, his voice getting louder. I worked for this. I earned this. I don't live in some rundown apartment complex in a questionable neighborhood. I live here in Willowbrook Heights because I made something of myself. Carmen tried to intervene. Derek, please. No, let me finish. Derek turned to face me directly. David, your family, so I'll be straight with you. This neighborhood, this lifestyle, it's not for everyone. Some people are meant to be renters, followers, people who take orders instead of giving them. The words hung in the air like a challenge. My hands remained steady, my expression calm. 15 years of building an empire had taught me patience. Derek wasn't finished. Honestly, I don't even know why you're here. This is a celebration of success, of people who've made it. Losers like you don't belong in nice neighborhoods like this. The silence that followed was absolute. Carmen's face was white with embarrassment. My uncle Roberto stared at his shoes. The neighbors began finding excuses to head inside. I looked around the patio at the deck I'd designed, the landscaping I'd planned, the view I'd preserved by carefully negotiating with the City Planning Commission. Then I looked at Derek, who was standing there with that satisfied smirk, waiting for my reaction. Congratulations on the new place, I said calmly, finishing my drink and setting the glass on the railing. I hope you're happy here. I walked through the house I owned, past the fixtures I'd chosen and the rooms I'd designed, and let myself out the front door. Behind me, I could hear Carmen's mortified voice and Derek's defensive responses, but I didn't look back. That evening, I sat in my home office reviewing the monthly reports from my property management company. Derek's file was routine. Rent paid on time, no maintenance requests, no complaints from neighbors. A model tenant, ironically. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the envelope I'd prepared months ago, back when Derek had first applied for the rental. Standard landlord introduction letter with my real name and contact information. I'd planned to send it eventually, but Derek's behavior today had accelerated my timeline. I sealed the envelope and wrote, "Important. From your property owner," across the front in block letters. Monday morning, I drove to Willowbrook Heights and placed the envelope in Derek's mailbox. Then I went to work, spending the day coordinating maintenance requests and reviewing acquisition opportunities. My phone buzzed with text messages. Carmen apologizing for Derek's behavior, my uncle asking if I was okay, my cousin wondering what Derek's problem was. Tuesday evening, my phone rang. Carmen's name appeared on the screen. David. Her voice was shaky. Derek needs to talk to you. About what? Just, can you come over? Please. I arrived at my own house 20 minutes later. Derek answered the door, his usual confidence completely absent. His face was pale and he was holding the envelope I'd left. We need to talk, he said quietly. Carmen was pacing in the living room, the letter spread out on the coffee table. When she saw me, she stopped. David, is this real? I glanced at the paper. What do you think? Derek collapsed into the armchair, his head in his hands. This is impossible. You work maintenance. You live in an apartment. You drive a pickup truck. I work maintenance because I like understanding how buildings function, I said, taking a seat on the sofa I'd helped select. I live modestly because I prefer investing my money rather than spending it on status symbols. And I drive a truck because it's practical for my business. Carmen was staring at the letter. It says here you've been our landlord for 4 months. That you own this house. I bought it 18 months ago. Renovated it. Put it on the rental market when it was ready. Derek looked up, his eyes wide. You're lying. This is some kind of joke. I pulled out my phone and showed him the property management app. His address, his lease terms, his payment history. $2,000 a month, first and last month's deposit. 1-year lease with option to renew. The color drained from his face. But you can't afford this neighborhood. You said. I never said anything about what I could or couldn't afford. You made assumptions. Carmen sat down heavily. David, why didn't you tell us? Because of reactions like Derek's at the party. I wanted to see how you'd treat me when you thought I had nothing you wanted. Derek was reading through the letter again as if hoping the words would change. This can't be right. Your landlord negotiated with me. I got the rent reduced. I couldn't help smiling. You accepted the standard rate after initially refusing to pay asking price. My property manager noted that you seemed to think $1,500 was more appropriate. His face flushed red. You heard me tell people that. I heard you lie to family about your rent to seem more modest. Which is interesting considering your speech about honesty and earning what you have. Carmen was looking around the room with new eyes. You designed all this. Every detail. The crown molding, the hardwood floors, the kitchen renovation. I spent 6 months making this house perfect. Derek stood up abruptly. This is insane. You're saying you own multiple properties. 212 as of last month. 12 different neighborhoods including most of this street. The number hit him like a physical blow. He sat back down staring at me. That's impossible. I showed him my investment portfolio on my phone. Property values, rental income, net worth calculations. Numbers that made his tech company salary look insignificant. How long? Carmen asked quietly. 15 years. I started with 1 duplex and reinvested everything. Every rent payment, every appreciation gain, every tax benefit. While Derek was buying BMWs and expensive suits, I was buying buildings. Derek was scrolling through the portfolio data, his face getting paler with each screen. These numbers, you're worth more than most of the people who live in this neighborhood, I finished. The room fell silent except for the sound of Derek's heavy breathing. Finally, he looked up. Saturday at the party. Everything I said was based on assumptions, I said. You decided I was worthless because I didn't display wealth the way you do. You never asked what I actually did or how I lived. Carmen was crying now. David, I'm so sorry. I had no idea Derek was treating you that way. It's not your fault, Carmen. But it's not the first time. Derek's made comments like that for years. Derek set my phone down carefully as if it might explode. What happens now? I considered the question. That depends on you. You're a good tenant. You pay on time, you take care of the property, you don't cause problems. From a business perspective, I have no complaints. But personally, you owe my sister an apology for embarrassing her at her own housewarming party. And you owe the family an apology for your behavior. Derek nodded slowly. You're right. I was completely out of line. Yes, you were. He looked around the room, seeing it differently now. This house, the renovation, the neighborhood investments. You're the reason property values here have gone up so much. Partly, yes. Carmen wiped her eyes. Why did you keep it secret for so long? I thought about the question. Because wealth changes how people see you. Some become envious, others become manipulative. Some start treating you differently, either better or worse. I wanted authentic relationships. Derek laughed bitterly. And instead you got to see exactly who I really am. Yes. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the neighborhood he now knew I largely owned. I feel like an idiot. You should. Carmen shot me a look, but I continued. Derek, you spent 5 years treating me like I was beneath you. You made assumptions about my intelligence, my ambition, my worth as a person. All because I didn't drive a fancy car or wear expensive clothes. He turned back to face me. How do I fix this? You start by changing how you treat people based on what you think they have. Success isn't about what you display, it's about what you build. The next few weeks were awkward but educational. Derek became a model tenant and a much more humble family member. He stopped making comments about anyone's career choices and started asking questions instead of making assumptions. Carmen invited me to dinner the following month. Derek cooked, which was new, and spent the evening asking about real estate investment and property management. His curiosity seemed genuine, not opportunistic. I keep thinking about what you said, he told me over dessert. About building versus displaying. I've been so focused on looking successful that I never actually thought about becoming successful. It's a common mistake, I said. But it's correctable. He nodded. Would you consider mentoring me? I know I don't deserve it after how I treated you, but I want to learn. I looked at Carmen, who was watching hopefully. See. Trust is earned back slowly. 6 months later, Derek had paid off his credit cards and started saving for his first investment property. He still lived in my house, but now he understood exactly what that meant. More importantly, he'd stopped measuring people by their possessions and started listening to what they actually had to say. At Carmen's birthday party, I overheard Derek talking to my nephew about career choices. The most successful people I know, he said, are the ones you'd never suspect. They build quietly, invest wisely, and don't waste time trying to impress anyone. My nephew nodded, then asked, like Uncle David? Derek smiled, a real smile this time. Exactly like Uncle David. Sometimes the best revenge isn't showing people what they missed. It's letting them discover it themselves and giving them the chance to become better than they were.